Hello and welcome. I'm Jason White. This is Jason's Weird Reads, and today we're going to talk about some books I've bought recently. Now, if you've been following my channel at all, you know that I haven't been doing as many book haul videos as I used to do, and there's a reason for that. Biggest reason being I don't buy as many physical books as I used to, but I could still do videos, honestly, on the ebooks and audiobooks I buy, because I buy those a lot. The reason why I don't buy physical books as much anymore is because I'm on a bit of not a book buying ban so much as, hey Jason, don't buy all the books. You don't need all the physical books. But, I do buy a lot of ebooks though, and audiobooks, but I always forget to put those into my book hauling videos. I don't know why that is. It's like it needs to be there in the physical form for me to want to haul it, but I'm going to add those in this video. But I do have some physical books here that we're going to discuss. I split this up into 3 sections, and you can probably guess what those sections are. We're going to talk about the physical books first, then the ebooks, and then the audiobooks. Alright, so first physical book I bought. I was at the bookstore the other day. I wanted to buy a book, but I didn't know what, and so I ran into this, and I've been wanting to buy this book and read it for a long time. I haven't read it yet, although I got a bookmark with it. Just a typical bookstore bookmark. So chapters, indigo bookmark. But Red Sister by Mark Lawrence, I've been wanting to read for a while, so I think this is a good place to do it on the physical format. Maybe. You never know, I might switch to audiobook. But I think a lot of people on the fantasy booktube know what this is. If you're unfamiliar, this is sort of like, from my understanding, deadly soldier-like nuns. And I believe this first book is sort of like the academy that trains them to become lethal killers. And that sounds like a really awesome time in my opinion. I'm going to try to go through these quickly because I do have a lot of books I want to discuss. Now I'm glad I didn't decide to do an unboxing of this book, because let me tell you, the people who sent this to me, so I bought this straight from the book publisher, they had this wrapped up and taped up, and I had such a time getting into it. So it's already opened, and I pre-ordered this, I think, in the summer of 2021, and it just came to me recently. And of course I'm talking about Thanatrama by Steve Raznik-Tem. This is a collection of short stories by Steve, and I've been wanting to read this for a while because this is sort of what I like reading when I read Steve Raznik-Tem. All these stories sort of have a theme of loss and sorrow, and just realizing that death is imminent. Steve Raznik-Tem really nails those kinds of feelings, I find. And the special thing about this book is it's signed and numbered. So this will be going into the collection, and if I'm going to read it, which I will, it's either going to be an audiobook format or the ebook. But there it is. Signed and numbered. The number is 135. I don't know how to many. I don't think it says. Oh, 300. So I got 1 out of 300 here. Got the 135th. So I'm glad that I got that. Also because of how rare this book is in hardcover here, I'm glad that they taped it up the way they did. It helped keep it safe. I've talked about the first book of these, but I decided to get the second and third. It's not because I'm overly enjoying the series, but I am enjoying the series, and it's the Alphabet Squadron series by Alexander Freed. But these Star Wars books are a treat. I find that these books, despite some of the parts that I had a lot of trouble getting into, there's another side to these books that's just grim, and it's basically a war story, fighter pilots, and in the Star Wars universe. So that's really something that I would enjoy reading, and I am enjoying reading. Can't speak today. I have a funny story. It's not a funny story, it's an interesting story. And And it also comes with a little bit of regret that I missed an opportunity. But Daniel Brahm, I've had him on the show before, and we discussed this book of short stories. I decided to get this book because I was at work one night when he sent me a message over Facebook Messenger. He ran into what could have possibly have been a legal issue on one of his own videos. So I'll try to remember to put a link to his channel because he likes to have a lot of readings. And he's going to be on my channel again for the Jewish Book of Horror. We're going to have a bunch of readings on this channel here in regards to that. It's basically going to be like one of his shows, but on my channel. And I'm really excited about that. But this book here, he contacted me and he was like, I think there might be a problem in one of my videos. It might result in some legal issues. And I was like, okay. And he was like, do you know how I can remove a certain thing that somebody said? I told him how to do it. It turns out he didn't have to do it. Whatever was said, I don't think it was even a big deal. There's just a possibility of a copyright issue or something like that. And but like I said, it turned out to be nothing. But I told him how to do it. I gave him sort of like a step-by-step of where he would be able to find the place in YouTube Studio where he could remove that part if he needed to. And he was gracious. He was like, you know what, let me send you a book. And this is where I should have said to send me your own book and sign it for me. But I didn't think that. And it might have been because I was at work. But he ended up sending me like a $25 gift card. And so I used that $25 gift card to get his books. I wanted the physical book anyway. And it's a great collection. Underworld Dreams by Daniel Brahm. These stories all have a very dreamlike quality to them, even though they're all set in a reality. I don't want to say firm reality because that's what gives them the dreamlike quality. Daniel Brahm's playing with reality in this, and he also plays with genres in this collection of short stories. It's a really awesome collection of short stories, but don't go in expecting explosions, big bangs, and being entertained that way. All these stories are rather slow burn, but they all have Daniel Brahm's voice, and when I'm reading a Daniel Brahm story, it's almost comforting. All right, that's it for the physical books. Let us move on to the ebooks here. Now, I just mentioned this book, Jewish Book of Horror. I was sent this book, not for a review, but because I'm going to be talking with some of the authors, including Daniel Brahm. And either you can look forward to that, or you can go back through, depending on what it is. The video itself is going to be live, and it is coming March 19th of 2022. So you can check that out. But until then, or even if this is in the future and we're talking about the past in this weird way, I should really stop. Go read the book, Jewish Book of Horror. It's an anthology collection of Jewish stories that are also horror stories. I think they take a lot of Jewish concepts. Daniel Brahm's story is actually a really interesting story in that I've already read it. It takes Terminator 2, the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, turns it into its own thing. It's a very weird story, but it's Daniel Brahm reading it. It's a fascinating story. All right, next up, I got Revelation Space by Alistair Reynolds. I read this book. I read it like way back in 2010 or 12, somewhere in there, and I've been wanting to reread it. I'm doing sort of the backwards thing here because when I read it the first time, I listened to it on Audiobook, and I want to read it with my eyes this time around. So I bought the ebook, and I don't know when I'm going to do it, but hopefully it'll be soon. I was hoping to do it very shortly, but there's a couple of things I need to read for the channel. Hopefully it'll be very shortly that I'll be doing the reread for this. I might read the entire trilogy. I don't know, but I want to continue. The reason why I want to do this is I want to continue the series. You have the Revelation Space trilogy, but then there's a whole bunch of sort of like singular books, sort of like Chasm City, that I really want to read, but I want to read these books again first. So hopefully that'll happen soon. I also picked up, this was a sale on BookBub recently, and that's Rendezvous with Rama. I want to read that one again because I had a lot of fun the first time I read it, and it was a long time ago. Maybe I should actually go get the audiobook for this because I read the first time with my eyes. I actually had the physical copy of this book somewhere. I don't have it anymore. I don't know why. I might have traded it in, but I don't think I did. Maybe it's in storage. I don't know. But I want to reread it again. I want to go through that alien spaceship that enters our little corner of space and go with the astronauts and the scientists who go exploring this alien ship. I just want to do that. Going into the horror here, I also picked up The Dover Demon by Hunter Shea. I'm woefully behind on my Hunter Shea books, and The Dover Demon, I was just browsing the Kindle store on Amazon, and I came across this, and I was like, you know what, I don't have it in my library, and so I picked it up. I have a whole bunch of other Hunter Shea books that I've also bought and haven't read yet, but I think this one or The Jersey Devil needs to be read before I read any of the other ones. Maybe we shall see. And I also got, last in the ebooks here, I got Nothing Lasting by Glenn Krish. I was on Facebook, and Kevin Lucia, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He currently runs the Cemetery Dance ebook novella, I think it is, section of Cemetery Dance. So he edits and publishes these shorter forms in ebook format for Cemetery Dance, and this is one of them. He was saying it was his birthday recently on Facebook, and he was like, for my birthday, why don't you go pick up one of the books that I've published for Cemetery Dance, and he put Nothing Lasting by Glenn Krish here, and so he said to do that for his birthday, and so I went and did it. Why not? It was only like $3, and I want to read it. It sounds like an interesting story. I did read the synopsis, but all I can remember of the synopsis right now is it takes place through a period of 25 years, I think, or at least something happened 25 years ago, and it's coming back, and there's a strong winter theme in this book, if I'm right. All right, let's move on to the audiobooks. I've been reading a lot of fantasy lately on audiobooks, and there's something I've learned, a sort of trend in this year. I've been reading, mostly with my eyes, science fiction and horror books, but I've been listening on audiobooks to a lot of fantasy, and you're going to see how this is reflected here, and also some non-fiction, but there's only one non-fiction in here. The rest are, and there's one science fiction actually as well, but the rest, I believe, are all fantasy. So I picked up Magician Apprentice by Raymond E. Feist. I picked this up because I learned that they're going to be adapting this the Riftwar saga, the Riftwar cycle, maybe, into a TV series. I don't know if it's the Riftwar saga, which is like 4 books. Actually, it's technically a trilogy, but Magician Apprentice and Magician Master are technically, they're meant to be one book, but the publisher split it up into the 2 books, so it's a quadrilogy, sort of. But I want to reread this series, not the whole thing necessarily, maybe all 29 books, but if not 29 books, then at least a couple of the series within the earlier books I want to reread and or read for the first time, depending on what we're talking about here. And of course, Magician Apprentice is the first, and so I want to re-listen to that shortly, because that's where I found fantasy. That was my first adult fantasy book ever. I've talked about this recently in a previous video, and nothing has changed. I still want to listen to it. I'm just not too sure exactly when. So I picked that up, and quite coincidentally, my Audible and Audible Canada had a sale of like first books and series, and they had Krondor the Betrayer by Raymond E. Feist, which is I don't remember the name of the series, but it is book 1 within the Riftwar cycle. It's like a trilogy. Maybe it's another 4 books within that larger series, and so I picked it up too. It was only like $5, and it's like a 25 hour long, if I'm remembering correctly. I might be wrong on that time, but it's a pretty big book for $5, and it's by one of my favorite fantasy writers, so I picked it up. And Cronder the Betrayer, I'm not too sure what that's about. I like going into some books blind, but I'll probably end up reading the synopsis for it at some point. I just picked it up because it was a book one within the Rift War cycle, and I'm making plans in regards to that world, so I now have it. The Wraith Chronicles, which is 4 books by Michael J. Sullivan. I have picked up all 4 of those books within that series, and they are The Crown Tower, The Rose and the Thorn, The Death of Dulgath, and The Disappearance of Winter's Daughter. And this is a series actually that I have been listening to actively, and these books, the Wraith Chronicles, are very easy on the ears, let me tell you. Especially during this, in the winter, times of war, scary times. These books are a great way to escape all that. And I'm already actually on book 4, and I just recently bought these books. It's so easy just to tear through these books and listen for like 2 or 3 hours at one time if you have that time. Sometimes I'll just, while I'm sitting there with my family, I'll just put in the earbuds and listen throughout the day. And that's not something I used to do before. So this series of books has introduced that to me, and I want to continue with the series proper, which is the Wraith Revelations. And that's where I kind of, about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I started on that series. I wanted to get back into fantasy, and I chose the Blade itself, and I didn't mind the series itself, but I ended up not completing the series, so I'm going to reread that book and then maybe complete that series at some point, but not right now. I'm just about to finish the quadrology. The funny thing about these books, even though there's 4 books within the series itself, you could probably read them separately, or start on book 3 or something. You don't really need knowledge of what happened in book 2. But having said that, it's probably a lot more fun to start on book 1, which is The Crown Tower, and read in the order of the books as they were released. It just makes, I guess, more sense. I don't know. But I'm having a lot of fun with that. And I also bought The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. This is a book that's been getting some attention on BookTube, and it was described to me as similar to The Witcher, without being The Witcher at all. I think there's monsters in this fantasy series. It's a brand new fantasy series, and so I'm looking to get into something new. So I bought the audiobook for that. I used a credit, and also not last, but that's the last of the fantasy books. I also got a science fiction book here that I'm going to be listening to actually very shortly, because I'm really craving more science fiction. And that's, I don't know how to pronounce this. I think it's Shindy or Chindi by Jack McDivitt. The one reason why I really want to get to this book is because it has the idea, it's sort of teased as the big idea science fiction book involving an ancient alien race that is no longer around, but scientists find satellites rotating around a planet far away, and they decide to go there and investigate, basically. And what they find are like these alien relics. It's an archaeological type of thing where they go and investigate, and that just sounds awesome to me. Deep space alien type stuff. And I am aware that this is book 3 in a series, but I am also aware that you don't need any prior knowledge of the previous books in order to enjoy this series. They're all standalones from my understanding, and a lot of people, when reading reviews on this, said that this was their first by Jack McDivitt. This is not my first by Jack McDivitt. He has a series, like an investigator type series, Private Eye, I think, in space type of series that I've read before, and I've enjoyed Jack McDivitt's writing style, so I'm looking forward to getting into his more big idea, blowing your mind type of story. So Shindy by Jack McDivitt should be a really awesome ride, and I'm hoping to get to that very shortly. Lastly, here is my only nonfiction book that I got on audiobook, and that is Doomed to Fail by J.J. Anselmi. Now, doom metal, the music, is a favorite of mine. You often see me wearing my Conan shirts. They're a pretty awesome doom metal band. My favorite being psychedelic doom metal or stoner metal, without me necessarily being a stoner. I just like the music. This is sort of like from my understanding, a memoir of a musician within that scene. And the musician is J.J. Anselmi himself. He's in a band. I can't remember the name of the band. They're not very big, but he goes into like all the doom metal bands and how he came into being a musician within it and all that. So this seemed, when I came across this book, I was like, wow, this seems like it was written for my musical, like personal, like this book is meant for me in a sense, because I'm such a big fan of all the bands he's going to be talking about. Alright, so that is my recent book haul. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, please leave me a little stack of books down there in the darkness, and I'll leave you a stack of books in return. Keep being safe and keep being creative. I'll catch you guys in the next books video.